There are some times in life where you see a headline and you think, what? And that happened about an hour and a half ago when Sir Ed Davey, for It Is He, announced that he was boycotting the state dinner for Donald Trump because of Donald Trump's views on Gaza. I thought, no, that can't be true. No serious politician would do that. But it is true. That's exactly what he's announced. And I'm thinking to myself, well, surely, why would you pass up the opportunity to actually have a word in Donald Trump's ear at the state dinner? Because there's usually sort of drinky poos beforehand. So as a party leader, I'm sure he could have wormed his way into the circle of Donald Trump and had a little go at him. But no, he's going to virtue signal, because that's all that this is. And that is not the sign of a serious party or a serious party leader. The Lib Dems are not a protest party. They have 72 MPs. They have aspirations to have even more. And I think just at the point where you think, well, actually, they have got a lot of good MPs, and I've been taking them far more seriously than I have done for the last 10 years. And then he goes and does this. And I think it's made him look a complete and utter plonker. But you may think, well, no, good on him for standing up for his principles. And I suspect if you suffer from Trump derangement syndrome, like so many people do, I mean, I've even been accused of that myself in the past, and I'm no fan of Donald Trump, but he is the President of the United States. And if he's on a state visit, I think it is incumbent for all political party leaders to actually respect that. You don't have to respect the man, but he's coming here as President of the United States, and you have to respect the office. So I want to know your views on this, whether you think that Ed Davey is doing the right thing, or do you think, like me, that it's a bit of a ridiculous thing to do? Aggie Chambray joins me, LBC's political correspondent, who will remain studiously impartial at all times, obviously. What's driving this, Aggie?
I think what's driving this is Ed Davey wants to pull every lever he feels that he can. This is the first state visit that he's turned down since he became Liberal Democrat leader. He went to a Qatari state visit, French, Japanese, South Korean, South African too in the last 5 years. But this one, he has said he just cannot do. It's a protest against Donald Trump's position on Gaza. And as you say, he announced in the last couple of hours that he and his wife, Emily, had spent all summer thinking about this. They had prayed about it, but this, they felt, was the only way, the one way to send a message to both Donald Trump and Sir Keir Starmer. So he posted this video on X.
It's an enormous honour to be invited by the King, who I have huge respect for. It's only by not attending that I get the opportunity to make this case. The people of Gaza are starving. Boycotting the banquet is the one way I can send a message to Donald Trump and Keir Starmer too, because they can't close their eyes and just wish this away. We have to speak up. They have to act.
That was Ed Davey there in a video on X.
I mean, how sick-making, frankly, with that music in the background.
That is the video that he posted on X. But as you were saying, there is an argument, of course, that if you don't attend, you're not there to make an argument. And indeed, I've been speaking to Labour sources who say Lib Dems do protest politics. And if you're governing, you actually have to have difficult conversations. You have to make difficult decisions. There are, of course, people in Sir Keir Starmer's party, among his own Labour MPs, that feel he's actually not having those difficult conversations with Donald Trump and would prefer that he would do more. And I think Ed Davey will be hoping that this might put a little bit of pressure on Keir Starmer, perhaps encourage him to have those difficult conversations. But speaking to Labour MPs, I don't think they feel this is that problematic for them, the fact that Ed Davey won't be going to this. It's interesting because this, of course, is the second state visit for Donald Trump since he became leader for a second time. And the first time in 2019, the then Liberal Democrat leader, Sir Vince Cable, also declined a visit to go to Trump's state banquet. So then did John Bercow, who's the leader of the House of the Commons Speaker at the time, and then Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn too. So there is precedent in that sense. But Ed Davey, as I say, he has been to every state visit apart from this since he became Liberal Democrat leader 5 years ago.
And I mean, the Qataris have a bit of a checkered record on quite a few issues. He went to that one. The South African government is accused of all sorts of things. He went to that one. And I wonder whether President Ceausescu from Romania famously came on a state visit where he and his wife nicked stuff from Buckingham Palace. There was a state dinner for that. Now, Ed Davey was probably a child at the time, so I can't hang that one on him. But I mean, there are all sorts of people that you have to deal with when you're in politics, whether you approve of them or not. I'm not sure this is going to be the vote winner that he thinks it might be.
I'm on the opposite side of the political divide to you, but I do quite often agree with you. I think you're a good man. But something you said earlier about Ed Davey, I think both can be true. He may be doing it as virtue signalling, but at the same time, it sounds like it's a kind of personal decision. And
well, you're right in that the first paragraph of his statement, or on that video, he said, "Emily, that's his wife, Emily and I have spent all summer thinking about this and have prayed about it. There is no honour like an invitation from the king, and not to accept his invitation goes against all of our instincts." So look, I completely accept that from the words that he's used and what he says, it's something that he has thought about quite deeply. I just think he's come to the wrong conclusion, that's all.
Yeah, well, partially. I know what you mean being a party leader, but then we do have to have morals. And to go back earlier, you said about other people that have had visits and he's gone. The one thing they haven't done that Trump has done is like releasing that video of Trump Towers in Gaza where people are being murdered.
Well, to be fair to Donald Trump, and we have to be, that was not his video. He did retweet it, but it was somebody else that made it.
Because he seemed to think it was funny.
Look, it depends on your sense of humour. Things that I find funny, other people don't, and vice versa. So.
Oh yeah, I did kind of find it funny, but at the same time,
I thought that Nigel Farage rap video yesterday was hilarious. So I said so. But oh my God, the wrath of Hades descended. You're such a Farage supporter. No, I just thought it was a funny and good video. That's all. It wasn't even his.
It was hilariously bad. Yeah. So they've both done the same thing there, but then that is Farage and Trump.
Well,
but Trump has said about we'll resettle all these people, and it's a wonderful piece of real estate. That was his words. You don't say that about
maybe
somewhere where people are being killed, and I would have the same problem as Ed Davey, to be honest.
What do you mean?
Well, that as much as I thought I should go, I don't know if I could.
Well, I think it's a slippery slope here because if we give a state visit to somebody who clearly has a lot of questions to ask about some of their policies, I'll use the example of President Xi of China.
Yes.
Where I think there's far more justification for boycotting a state visit by him than there is with Donald Trump. Were we to give a state visit to the King of Saudi Arabia, which is not beyond the realms of possibility, again, you could say, well, that's outrageous with all the human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia. You could find excuses for a lot of countries and not just dictatorships. A lot of democratic leaders. For example, Mugabe was given a state visit. Would Ed Davey have gone to that? It's obviously before his time. G says, it's all very well for us to criticise Ed Davey's frankly quite imaginative attempt to significantly attach the Gaza issue to Trump's state visit before going back to our comfortable, hot and cold running lives, but trying to persuade Trump into a position on Gaza that doesn't align with his is ultimately pointless. But negative publicity will always get Trump's attention. But that's the thing. Donald Trump isn't going to know that Ed Davey is boycotting the state dinner. He will probably have never heard of Ed Davey. I don't think boycotting it will change that situation. So you think, well, what's the point? Because had he attended, there's a possibility that he could have sidled up to Donald Trump and had a conversation with him and put his point of view over Gaza to him. Well, he's basically said, no, I don't want to do that. Much better just not to go. Well, I would respectfully disagree with him on that. Actually, can I say respectfully, because I did call him a dork earlier, so it rather goes against that, doesn't it? Oh, well.
I just think that somebody who's trying to become our Prime Minister at the next general election can boycott wanting to meet with the leader of the Western world in many ways over politics. I think we've got to take this sort of polarisation out of politics and learn how to work with democratically elected officials.
Well, obviously, I rather agree with you. I just think any leading... and he's not just an ordinary MP, he is leader of the Liberal Democrats, the third party in British politics by number of seats. They've got 72 seats. I would have thought that a lot of their MPs would quite like him to represent their views to the President of the United States at this dinner. Now, I've never been to a state dinner, but I have been to a reception at Buckingham Palace once where there were 800 people, and I was determined I was going to speak to or rather my partner was determined that we were going to speak to the Queen. And this was 20 years ago now. We knew how to do that. We thought, well, if we stand here, she's got to walk by us at some point, and she did. And we had a nice 5-minute conversation with her. And he could have done the same thing with Donald Trump.
I completely agree. And I must admit, I'm not a Labour voter, but I do applaud Keir Starmer for working with the president, attempting to become as close as possible, because it's only then that if you have disagreement that you're actually going to be able to influence their politics and what Trump is trying to do. And I think Starmer's been successful in that when you look at what he's done with the trade tariffs with the UK compared to the EU.